Okay, so here's something to think about. Nearly 1 in 5 American workers believe their jobs could be eliminated by AI in the next 5 years. That's not just a tech story, it's a human story.
And it's one that's already unfolding. Let's dive into how AI is reshaping the job market and what it means for all of us.
Welcome to DeActa Daily Digest. I'm Joseph.
And I'm Juniper. Here are today's top stories.
So let's start with this AI and job story. It's fascinating because the data is all over the place. On one hand, you've got studies showing job losses, especially for younger workers. And on the other, there's evidence that AI adoption is actually creating jobs in some companies.
That's what makes this so complicated. For example, the Gallup survey found that nearly 20% of workers think their jobs could vanish because of AI or new technologies in just 5 years. That's a huge number, and it's not just speculation. There's data to back it up.
Right. Like the Stanford research showing a 4.8% year-over-year decline in early career positions in fields exposed to AI. That's a big hit for younger workers who are just trying to get their foot in the door.
But then you have the RAMP study, which flips the narrative. It found that companies adopting AI expanded their payrolls by over 10% in 2 years. And even more surprising, entry-level hiring actually increased at those companies. So is AI creating jobs or taking them away?
It seems like it's doing both, depending on how it's implemented. Companies that use AI to complement their workforce seem to be growing, while others might be using it to replace workers. It's a double-edged sword.
And that's where policymakers come in. Gina Raimondo, the former Commerce Secretary, is optimistic about AI creating more jobs overall. But she's also clear about the need to manage the transition and support workers who might lose their jobs in the short term.
On the other hand, Bernie Sanders is sounding the alarm. He's warning about massive job losses and pointing to automation as a major threat to industries like manufacturing and warehousing. His proposal to give Americans a direct ownership stake in AI firms is pretty bold, don't you think?
It is, and it's a fascinating idea. It's about making sure the benefits of AI aren't just concentrated among tech giants and their shareholders. But would something like that even work in practice? It's a big question.
It's definitely a departure from how we usually think about corporate ownership, but it does tap into this broader anxiety about who gains and who loses in an AI-driven economy. People want to know they're not being left behind.
And the media coverage reflects that tension. Some outlets are warning about AI's limitations and the potential for failure, while others are highlighting the optimism from tech executives. It's like no one can agree on what the future holds.
Which makes sense because we're still in the early stages of this transition. The bottom line is that the evidence on AI's impact on jobs is still contested. We're seeing both job losses and job creation, and it's going to take years to fully understand the net effect.
In the meantime, it's crucial for policymakers and industry leaders to focus on easing the transition. Whether it's through retraining programs or new legislation, there has to be a safety net for people who are affected by these changes.
Absolutely. All right, let's move on to the second story about Iran. This one is intense. Mojtaba Khamenei, Iran's new supreme leader, is vowing revenge for his father's killing, and President Trump is responding with some pretty stark military threats.
It's a really dangerous situation. Khamenei's statement about avenging his father's innocent blood is deeply personal, but it's also a political move. He's trying to consolidate power and rally the Iranian people around him.
And then you have Trump, who's not exactly known for subtlety. His warning about having 1,000 missiles locked and loaded is a clear escalation. It's almost like he's daring Iran to act.
Which is terrifying because it raises the stakes so much. Any misstep or miscalculation could lead to a full-blown conflict. And let's not forget, this comes after years of tension between the US and Iran, including the fallout from the killing of Qasem Soleimani back in 2020.
Right. And the international community has to be watching this closely. The article mentions the need to look out for further public statements from Iran, US military movements, and any diplomatic efforts to de-escalate the situation. But so far, it doesn't seem like cooler heads are prevailing.
No, it doesn't. And it's worth noting that these kinds of threats and counter-threats often serve a domestic audience as much as an international one. For Khamenei, it's about proving his strength as a leader. For Trump, it's about projecting power and possibly shoring up support at home.
That's a good point. But the risk is that this rhetoric could spiral out of control. It's a reminder of how fragile international relations can be, especially when personal vendettas and political ambitions are involved.
Exactly. Let's move on to the third story, which is another tense situation. Congressman Ro Khanna and his delegation were stopped and detained by Israeli settlers in the West Bank. That's a pretty shocking development.
It really is. Khanna described the settlers as armed with American-made rifles, which adds another layer to this. It's not just about the local dynamics in the West Bank. It's also about the role of U.S. military aid to Israel.
And that's a contentious issue within the Democratic Party. Khanna's comments about the moral failings of his party's mainstream highlight the growing divide over U.S. policy toward Israel. There's a real push from some Democrats and progressive activists to re-examine that $3.8 billion to annual military aid.
But then you have Republicans and other Democrats who strongly support Israel and see that aid as essential. It's a deeply polarizing topic, and incidents like this one only add fuel to the fire.
And let's not forget the broader context. The international community generally views Israeli settlements in the West Bank as illegal under international law, but Israel disputes that characterization. It's a long-standing issue with no easy solutions.
Khanna's experience underscores the human impact of these policies. He was there to see the situation firsthand, and what he encountered was a stark reminder of the tensions on the ground. It's not just abstract policy debates, it's real people's lives.
Exactly. And it raises questions about the U.S.'s role in all of this. Should we be doing more to address rights abuses? Should we be rethinking our military aid? These are tough questions, and they don't have simple answers.
No, they don't. But it's clear that these issues aren't going away anytime soon. Whether it's AI and jobs, U.S.-Iran tensions, or the situation in the West Bank, these are all stories that will continue to evolve.
And they're all interconnected in some way. Technology, politics, international relations, they all shape our world in profound ways. Oh, it's a lot to think about, but it's also a reminder of why these conversations are so important.
Absolutely. Well, that's all we have time for today. Thanks for diving into these topics with me.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure to dig into these stories and try to make sense of them. Until next time.